All right, guys, in this podcast, we're going to jump into my first impressions and opinions of the RZR Pro R4 Ultimate.
Look, I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft.
All right, guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess. Today it's just me again. AJ's out on business. Before I forget, Blackbird merch is live. I'll include the link in the bio. Any support is really appreciated, guys. And we're happy to see the people who are enjoying wearing the stuff. So please, if you can, support us there. We'd greatly appreciate it. All right, let's hop into it. So I've put about 80 miles on this RZR now. And if you watched the last podcast, I was talking about kind of this, why I went with the Pro R versus the XP Turbo. And in this video, in this podcast, I kind of want to just give my initial impressions of this thing with 80 miles. I've taken it on some mountain trails, some more wide open desert. We've jumped it. We've done kind of some different things with it. So I kind of have first impression opinions. And I'm going to be going over a couple different points here. I'm going to start with suspension, and then I'm going to go into the motor, what I think of the naturally aspirated four-cylinder. And then I want to touch on ride command because I think that's huge for guys that are trying to explore and they don't want to bring, something that might be reliant on cell service for mapping. And then I'm going to go into comfort, and then I'm just going to kind of touch on overall thoughts, and then we'll end this video, and we'll probably do more of like an in-depth review on the YouTube channel at some point, but not in this podcast. So suspension. This is the ultimate package, so it has Dynamics DV suspension, which is straight out awesome. I absolutely love it. My other one had a long kit travel on it, but this hands down is better. I know the front suspension attaches to the lower A-arm. I keep pointing to my right because the RZR's sitting right there. I just couldn't fit it in the frame. So the suspension is amazing. What I will say, without getting into all the specs, there's a bunch of other videos that do that. This is the Fox, live wire stuff. The thing that I really like about this, in Colorado, we have a lot of, they're dirt trails, but they're very like little rocks like embedded in the trail. And if you don't have good suspension, like in a Ranger, it creates a ton of chatter. Like things are just vibrating and your head's kind of going crazy. Being honest, it was doing that in this as well, which I was kind of disappointed about. And that's mainly at lower speeds. If you kind of plane out, it kind of goes away. But it was really annoying. Well, then I started messing with the suspension modes, and I put it on rock. And I don't know what it did. Obviously, it adjusted something. It eliminated all that chatter on the trail that I was on, and it was just way smoother at slower speeds, which obviously it's rock suspension mode. That's pretty badass though. So the suspension, I have no complaints yet. When we were jumping it in the desert, we weren't getting big air. If you guys saw it on Instagram, it wasn't a very big jump. However, with this heavy of a machine, I could definitely see if you were going to start going faster and faster and faster, and you were hitting bigger and bigger jumps, which I can't believe we're jumping a 4-seat RZR. I never thought I'd see the day, but it's a lot of fun, and I'm going to keep doing it. But I would definitely probably re-spring this thing. Zebros, I know, makes a spring that a lot of people like, or Shock Therapy, or there's a bunch of places out there. But I might be doing that. Not now. I don't want to spend any more money on it now, but if I really got into booting this thing, I guess they're not that big of jumps, but they feel pretty big. I would probably respring it, because I think going much higher than what we were going in that video, you'd stand a good chance of bottoming it out. So the other thing that I will say, this is the Pro R4. This thing is long and it is wide. So when it comes to suspension on the whoops, when we're in the desert, my dog was riding with me, so I couldn't really go super fast. You really have to plane, in my opinion, you have to plane this thing out a lot faster to get it to really ride the whoops well. It was smooth, but it's so long that if you're not really planing out over the whoops, you kind of feel that like front to back motion, which obviously is normal, but this thing you have to go fast in, and the faster you go, it seems like, the better the suspension is. In comfort mode, there's 4 modes. I'm not going to get into all that, but there's 4 modes, and normally I do it in comfort, but when we were playing out through the whoops and stuff like that, we had 3 people and then the dog, and I found myself putting it into track mode, and that helped a ton. And that's kind of where it lived when I was in the desert going faster. Let's jump into, and the other thing before I was talking about, the overall length, it's a long machine, especially for Colorado trails. It's really a desert machine in my opinion, with the 74-inch wide stance on it. So I'm not talking about the length, I'm talking about the width. You have to understand that if you're a guy that's riding tight mountain trails, with how long this thing is and with how wide this thing is, it might not be the machine for you. Just because I know in Colorado up in the mountains, a lot of the times they're 50-inch or 53-inch or whatever it is trails. This thing, I have a good feeling it is going to have a hard time fitting down those trails. A lot of people do it, but it's just, if that's what you ride, slow mountain stuff, this is probably not the machine for you in my opinion. But that's my opinion. I'm going to do it, but anyway. Okay, motor. This is the thing that I was very concerned with, honestly, because I was going from a turbo, and, I'll do a lot of riding at 8 to 10,000-ish feet in Colorado. So for those of you who don't know, with a naturally aspirated engine, you're going to lose a lot of horsepower. And I'm not going to get into the numbers of that, but you're going to lose a significant amount. And so this is the 225 horsepower 4-cylinder naturally aspirated, which means there's no turbo on it from the factory. And this thing, I would say it feels, it's obviously not going to hit like a turbo. It doesn't have that like put you back in the seat. But the crazy thing about this thing is I'm having a hard time gauging how fast I'm going, because with the suspension and the motor, it's such more of a linear powered motor that you think you're running at like 30 miles an hour down a trail, and you look down and you're going 65 or 70 miles an hour. And the first couple times I drove this thing, I'd go to turn onto another road and I would hit the brakes, and it would take me so much longer to stop because I was going 40 miles an hour faster than I originally thought I was, just because of the difference in feeling the turbo versus not, and then the upgraded suspension. This thing, in my opinion, the faster you drive it, the more it rewards you when it comes to the suspension department and just overall smoothness. I'm not encouraging you going 70 miles an hour, but there definitely is some pros to that with this machine. So the motor overall, I would love to turbo it, but I'm not going to right now. It's a lot of fun. I don't think in any way you're going to be underpowered for Colorado. Obviously, most guys would rather have this set up down at lower elevations than the turbo, because the turbo is at 181 horsepower. This claims to be at 225. But like I said, that turbo will compensate for elevation, where the naturally aspirated just isn't going to do that. So I like it. It's a different kind of power. I might say that the turbo is a little bit more fun, but it's noisier, and this is plenty for me. I think it's plenty for 99% of people out there. Okay, ride command. We have it on our sleds. A lot of the RZRs have it. A lot of the Rangers have it, or the side-by-sides, I guess. It is, I would not buy one without it. When you're exploring, which this is, in my opinion, these machines are made to explore, there is nothing better than being able to have everything you need right on that screen and not having to mess with a phone. So this ride command seems to be a lot more accurate than my snowmobile's ride command. My snowmobile will kind of wig out sometimes and say I'm here, or say my buddy's there. This one hasn't done that, and maybe it's because something went wrong with the snowmobile. I don't know. But this one seems, so far across my fingers, very accurate, and I think it's essential to having the best day out on the trail when it comes to ride command, when it comes to linking with your friends who also have ride command. It's just a really good system. And not only the maps in there, but the diag stuff, you can control music on there, and then all your gauges, you can flip through a million different gauges. But something that I really like to see is there's a dynamics DV gauge in there, which is your suspension controls basically, and it's telling you what that suspension's doing. I like that, because then I can see like the difference between going from comfort to track or track to Baja or whatever. I just like having that gauge, and it's kind of fun to watch. So overall, ride command, gotta have it in my opinion. If you're gonna spend this kind of money on a side-by-side or even a snowmobile, it's like might as well just pay for it. I mean, it's when you're at that point, what's another, I think on a snowmobile, it's like $1,000. So, okay, overall comfort. So like I said, this is a 4-seater. My other one was a 2-seater. To me, this is just so much more of a capable adventuring machine. I get that the 2-seater might be sportier, might be more agile, but with having 4 seats, you can take more people, but not only that, you can take more gear. And that's the thing. If you watch the last podcast, that was my problem with that 2-seat turbo, is it just was too small for the things I was trying to do. This is so cool because the dog gets to go, the friends get to go. It's just a lot more fun. Overall comfort, I touched on suspension. This thing is a smooth ride. And when I'm talking about comfort as well, I should talk about, to me, the most annoying thing is the noise. I'm going to put a half windshield on this thing for the summer and then maybe full glass in the fall. But the biggest thing when it comes to noise and riding experience is the wind noise. Because when you're going 70 with no windshield, it's pretty loud, just the wind. And out in Colorado in the spring, it's windier than hell, it seems like, most of the time. So overall, way more comfortable because it's quieter and you can hold a conversation. And especially if it's not windy or if you're not going super fast, I just think that this thing is more pleasant to drive. A lot of that could have been the aftermarket exhaust on my other one, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to dive into that, but this thing is a really good time. I'm very impressed. Plenty of space. You don't need to put everything on your lap. You can put it in the back seat. I don't even have a trunk in this thing yet, so that will eventually get there, and then we'll have a bunch of storage and everyone can be comfortable. But the other thing, if you're having people ride in the back of this thing for long periods of time, it's great because you have that stadium style seating where if you've ever rode in the back of, like, say, a Ranger, or at least the one we had, they were level with the driver. The height of the seats in the front and the back were level with the driver. This one's a little different because the back seats are actually taller than the front seats. So the person in the back gets a great experience as well because they can see over the driver and passenger's head, and it just makes it more pleasant for a day out on the trail. You're not staring at the back of somebody's head. Overall thoughts, I'm trying to be precise here on the old Let's Assess podcast. I love it. I think it's, spending this much money on a side-by-side, even with the deal that I got, it's crazy. But I think that this is a vehicle that that just has way more potential when it comes to performance and, like I'm talking space and overall comfort and stuff. Just the stuff that I want to do, I'm very happy so far. The only thing that I'm really disappointed in is cleaning this thing. As you guys know, if you have a side-by-side, it seems like you just spray the inside, it goes to the outside. You spray the outside, it goes to the inside. It's like an hour and a half to wash this thing, and it still has dirt everywhere. So that's the only thing that I'd be disappointed with. The other thing that I'm kind of skeptical on, this thing seems to burn quite a bit of gas, which I know the turbos, they say, are a little bit more fuel efficient. The 4-cylinder Pro Rs aren't as. But the other thing, too, is this thing doesn't seem to hold as much gas as I wish it would. And I get it. This isn't made to be an adventure vehicle. It's more of like a performance machine. But it would be nice if the gas tank was bigger just on these long rides or staying the night and then riding more. But you can always pack gas with 4 seats if you're not taking 4 people. So it's really not that big of a deal. I'm trying to think what else that I could complain about. Cleaning, it's pretty much the biggest thing. Oh, yeah, I really wish that Polaris would put some stuff on these things for, like, when you're paying this kind of money, it's like, why don't they just put like a winch or, I don't know, dude. Like, it seems pretty strip clean for, like, I don't know. It's a nice machine, but sometimes I'm like, dang, dude, they could have done a couple things better. But overall, it's awesome. The seats in the back remove. It's super easily. And now I'm rambling, but my overall thoughts of this machine, hopefully it holds up, but I rate it a 9.9 out of 10. I really love it. There's more content to come. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe, like, we'd appreciate it, guys. And again, Blackbird merch is live. So what are your opinions on this? Is a Pro R for you? Is it not for you? Leave it in the comments. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comments, guys. So we appreciate it. Thank you. And AJ should be back next week. So this week, let her eat and let's ride.